uncomfortable sometimes. This audio is not about what I bring as a parent. I'm not a parent. It is about ways to better manage life, and it's about the experiences I have had growing up as a child in an unhealthy state. How I learned to think and act in a healthy manner. I want to share these perspectives with you, and hope you can relate to some of my experiences. After all, you were a kid too, and we're all just working to do the best job we can. It's interesting, because one way I learned about healthy relationships was from hanging out with my 16-year-old nephew. I have watched my brother and sister work very hard to make the right choices with their kids, and have even reflected back on how my parents were with me. It can be very difficult to see the child, their inner self, when you're trying to raise them and get them on a specific track. It's a whole different world. Actually, it's similar to a manager and employee relationship. A manager sees the patterns and habits of an employee, and if the employee has a challenge, the manager may struggle to get that employee on track. And then we'll even start to expect or predict behavior, especially bad behavior. The clean slate that was there when the employees started is no longer there. For example, if an employee starts to be late, and the manager starts to anticipate the employee being late, and will even react before the employee is actually late. We're all people, and we start to formulate reactions to those around us. As a parent, a child starts to grow and you start to open their world to choices, and then you respond to their reactions to those choices. You allow the good choices and correct the bad ones. Unfortunately, just as a manager to an employee remembers the criticism, we as kids can do the same thing. When I was a kid, if I forgot to finish a chore, I don't remember my mom or dad recognizing all the chores I completed. I only remember my parents yelling that I didn't do one of my chores. As a corporate trainer and professional speaker, employees yearn for the compliment and always remember the criticism. We never outgrow that thought process. So this is what made my relationship with my nephew so special. It was a relationship. My brother had asked me to tutor his son, and at the same time, me and my nephew made a night of it. All healthy stuff. We'd work on his homework, we'd work out, we'd grab a bite, and then we'd sit in his living room watching television. We had a great time. But the most memorable of the time was the freedom to share our thoughts and feelings in a very real way. It was clean, and perhaps one of the healthiest relationships I had ever been in. If I had a concern about what he was thinking, I asked. No stress, no anger, just ask. If he had a concern, he did the same thing. Believe me, I'm not saying that I'd be a better parent, because I wasn't in the trenches every day. But I do know that I learned about the kind of parent that I'd like to be. And even though he was a kid and needed the structure, balance, and leadership in his life, he was a person, and his feelings, just like mine, deserved to be heard. My tutoring time with my nephew lasted about 6 months, maybe 7. But this was a life-changing time for me. My sister's daughter, my niece, has brought the same evolutionary change in my life. I can contribute to her growth in an entirely different way. If I had to deal with her completing her homework, chores, monitor her time and safety, I may not have had the space in my mind to contribute to the experience of her. I'd probably be focused on the laundry list of activities that need to get done. Parenting is a lot of work. When I was out with my niece, she must have been 10 maybe, and I was talking about my back deck and how the weather was destroying it. I had commented that I wished I could cover it with something, just talking, not about anything major. My niece said, "Why don't you get a pool cover for the deck?" Actually, a really good idea. But if I were in some other baggage-filled relationship, or perhaps was raising my niece myself, and caught up in the day-to-day challenges of life, I might have missed her very profound statement. But I looked at my niece and said, "That's a good